All right, let's get right into it. You know how we all have this little movie playing in our heads? Yeah, a script for exactly how our life is supposed to turn out. And look, having expectations isn't a bad thing at all. I mean, they're what drive us, they're the reason we even bother getting out of bed in the morning. But what happens when that script we've written is just a little too perfect? When reality comes along and decides, you know what, I'm not going to follow your script at all. Well, that's when we find ourselves falling into this huge chasm we're talking about today, the expectation gap.
And listen, this isn't just some tiny little crack in the sidewalk. No, this thing is a canyon. It's a place where all our disappointment and frustration just echoes. This gap, it can be this silent thing that just totally wrecks our happiness. And today, we are dragging it out into the open.
So, it all starts with this one single powerful word, expectation. And to really get a feel for its power, I want to introduce you to someone. Let's call her Sarah. Sarah is super ambitious, she's smart, and she's just graduated from a great university with a fantastic degree. In her mind, the world is laid out before her, and she's already decided exactly which prize she's going to grab.
Now, Sarah didn't just have a vague idea of what she wanted. Oh no, she had a full-blown, meticulously crafted vision. You know, like a high-definition surround sound fantasy of what her professional life was going to be. The kind of dream that feels so incredibly real, you can practically taste the free gourmet coffee in the break room.
And her dream job checklist, it was, let's just say, very specific. She pictured a huge salary right from day one, a fancy office in a super famous corporation. Her coworkers, oh, they were going to be her new best friends, obviously. The workplace itself, zero stress, none. And of course, that career ladder was going to be more like a rocket ship, straight to the top. A perfect, flawless, professional fantasy. I mean, what could possibly go wrong, right?
Well, everything. Literally everything. Because reality, as it so often does, just showed up with a bucket of ice-cold water and a mischievous grin. The dream bubble popped, and boy, was it loud.
The actual reality was just a world away. Instead of that big, shiny corporation, she ended up at a chaotic little startup. That high salary turned out to be pretty average. You know, enough to pay the bills and not much else. And those perfect, supportive colleagues? They were just real people. Busy, stressed out, and mostly focused on their own work. And that clear, straight path to the top, it was more like a maze filled with totally unpredictable challenges every single day. The gap between her expectation and reality wasn't just a gap, it was a whole other universe.
So as you can imagine, Sarah felt frustrated all the time. She honestly felt like she'd been tricked or cheated somehow. But this wasn't just a case of bad luck. There's actually a really powerful psychological thing happening here. A mechanism that can turn a simple mismatch into a full-blown crisis.
So why does it hit us so hard, right? Why can't we just shrug our shoulders and go, that's life? Well, the answer is all in how our brains are wired to handle this gap between what we want and what we actually get.
Which brings us to our second key word for today, the gap. And you gotta understand, this isn't just some empty space. No, this thing is an active psychological force field that totally distorts how we see everything. You could say it's the villain of our story.
Okay, so here's how this nasty little cycle works. First, the gap itself creates that first punch of feeling like you've lost something. Second, when you hold on to that perfect idea, you put this immense pressure on yourself. For Sarah, every single day at work felt like a failure. Third, and this is a big one, it completely stops you from being able to adapt. She was so obsessed with the job she thought she deserved, she was blind to the opportunities in the job she actually had. And that leads to step 4. You start seeing only the bad stuff. And finally, all of this just kicks off a negative feedback loop where disappointment just keeps feeding on itself.
Sarah was completely stuck in this spiral, and she was really close to just giving up on everything. But then something shifted. She had this one conversation, this one moment of clarity that just changed the entire game. And the turning point wasn't about changing her job, it was about changing her mind. A mentor said this to her, and it just hit her like a lightning bolt. Real success wasn't about forcing reality to match her fantasy. It was all about her ability to adapt, to grow, and to actually find value in the real, messy, imperfect situation she was in. And this right here is the absolute key. It's so simple, but it's so incredibly profound. The moment Sarah let go of her rigid script, the chaotic reality of her job didn't magically change. But her experience of it, it was transformed completely. She started to see all the messy, unpredictable parts of her job not as problems, but as opportunities. It wasn't a prison anymore. It was a training ground.
And this is where our story gets its happy ending. But it's not the one Sarah originally wrote for herself. Oh no. This one's a real one that she earned by completely changing her perspective.
Her entire focus just flipped. Instead of complaining about her salary, she started building skills that would actually make her more valuable. Instead of feeling let down by her imperfect colleagues, she started building genuine positive relationships with them. She started seeing the daily headaches not as annoyances, but as lessons. And by focusing on her own growth, she eventually earned a real promotion. And with it, a deep sense of accomplishment she never, ever would have found chasing a fantasy.
Which brings us to our final and maybe most important key word, satisfaction. Because it turns out, real satisfaction isn't found when reality perfectly lines up with our expectations. It's found in that moment when we adjust our expectations to embrace the reality we're actually in.
So, as we wrap this up, I want you to think about those movies playing in your own head. The scripts you've written for your life, for your job, for your relationships. Ask yourself, are they actually helping you? Are they motivating you? Or are they just a blueprint for your own disappointment? Because sometimes the most powerful change you can possibly make is to just tear up that old script and start appreciating the incredible story you're already living.